Welcome to Principles of Macroeconomics. Lecture 8 will cover economic fluctuations. First, we will take a look at the economic business cycles. First, what is a business cycle? Business cycles refer to fluctuations in the general level of economic activity, as measured by real GDP and the unemployment rate. The United States and other industrialized economies have been characterized by instability in terms of real GDP growth. These advanced economies will have periods of robust growth in real GDP, followed by a slowdown and a contraction in real output. During an economic contraction, real GDP growth slows or turns negative, unemployment increases, and business sales fall. Now we take a look at a stylized diagram of the business cycle. On our y-axis, we have real output, or gross domestic product. On our x-axis, we have time. An economy will generally go through periods of troughs, or recessions, and peaks known as booms. When most businesses are doing well, and we have rapid GDP growth, we see a business peak. But during contractions, business sales slow, real GDP grows at a slower rate or even falls, and unemployment increases. We need to go through a few terms that help in describing the boom and bust cycle that we experience during recessions and economic expansions. So a recession is a downturn in economic activity characterized by declining real GDP and rising unemployment. Many economists define a recession as 2 consecutive quarters in which there is a decline in real GDP, or negative GDP growth. A depression, on the other hand, is a prolonged and very severe recession. Economists do not agree on a technical definition, but the U.S. recession in 1929 is generally regarded as a depression due to its severity and prolonged duration. We should also take a look at how economic fluctuations affect the labor market. Economists divide the labor market into sections to classify a country's population. The non-institutional civilian population is divided into 2 broad categories. First, we divide it up into a category with those who are in the labor force, and the second category includes those who are not in the labor force. First, the civilian labor force refers to the number of people aged 16 or over who are either employed or unemployed. To be classified as unemployed, a person must be looking for a job. If you're unemployed, this is a term used to describe a person not currently employed who is either 1. Actively seeking employment, or 2. is waiting to begin or return to a job. Labor force participation rate refers to the number of people in the civilian labor force as a percentage of the overall total civilian population aged 16 years or older. The unemployment rate refers to the percentage of people in the labor force who are currently unemployed. Mathematically, it is equal to the number of people unemployed divided by the number of people in the labor force. Next, we have the employment population ratio, and this is exactly as it sounds. It is the number of people 16 and older who are employed as civilians divided by the total civilian population that is 16 and over. For a recent statistic, as of May 2012, the U.S. unemployment rate was 8.2%. The unemployment rate is a key barometer of the aggregate labor market conditions. Next, we will look at dynamic change and unemployment. We have to remember that some unemployment is not necessarily a bad thing, and we expect some unemployment to be normal in a healthy economy. For example, new firms are born, and other firms are shutting down or going out of business. Employees will be temporarily unemployed as they seek new jobs. Also, students entering the labor force from high school or college may be unemployed during a job search. People may also leave jobs to seek better opportunities or higher paying wages. There are three main types of unemployment that we should know about. The first is called frictional unemployment, and it is caused by constant dynamic changes in an economic system, and it occurs when qualified workers who have the proper skills cannot be immediately matched up with existing job openings. Next, we have structural unemployment, which usually results from the transition of an economy, so a result of structural characteristics of the economy that make it difficult for job seekers to find employment and for employers to hire workers. In a sense, employers require skills that many unemployed workers do not have. You can think of an economy switching from an agricultural economy to an industrialized economy. In this case, employers really want workers with more skills who can use machinery, who may be more educated, but instead most of the labor force is used to working in agriculture. And lastly, we have cyclical unemployment, which is a result of recessionary business conditions and inadequate labor demand. Let's take a look at employment and GDP fluctuations. Full employment is a term used to describe the level of employment that results from the efficient use of the labor force, taking into account the normal rate of unemployment due to frictional and structural factors, such as people looking for work because they just entered the labor market or they're between jobs. This full employment rate is thought to be about 95%, with a natural rate of unemployment of around 5%. Full employment is a result of the economy growing at the maximum sustainable rate. That is, it's a level of output that we should be able to sustain in the long run. Economists describe the maximum sustainable output of an economy as its potential output. That is, it's the maximum level of GDP growth that is sustainable, although actual GDP fluctuates about the potential GDP level. Lastly, we should take a look at inflation, which last time we mentioned is an increase in the average level of prices in an economic system. There are three main problems with inflation. Number one, high and variable inflation reduces investment. This is because unanticipated inflation alters the outcome of long-term projects and contracts and can make them unprofitable. So this discourages investors from making long-term investments in capital projects and also discourages banks from making long-term loans. Number two, inflation distorts the information delivered by prices. So unexpected inflation can distort relative prices and send mixed signals about the scarcity of various goods. Number three, high and variable inflation results in less productive use of resources. That is, people will try to protect themselves against inflation or devote more of their time into changing prices rather than engaging in productive activities. Lastly, what causes inflation? We will need to study a few more tools, including the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, but nearly all economists agree that inflation is caused by rapid expansion in a nation's supply of money.